I rock with apostles' doctrine. Apocrypha on top got me topping over my opposites. Enemies can't stop me, they topple over the obstacles. Couldn't see with binoculars. Most of these bad words obstinate. Y'all discard them, they obsolete. They insubordinate. They wanna walk the path, but don't wanna follow the coordinates. The Abba gave us statutes, laws, commands, and ordinance. He even gave his son. We matched the love with impertinence. Falling into the curse again, like our forefathers. Ain't nothing new under the sun till the son was sent by the Father. A higher, a sure, a higher. He set up my soul on fire. He breathed who walk in my lungs. Yahweh keeps me inspired. I'm Judah till I expire. Team one for the team, boy. Do you even know what that mean, boy? When them lions step on the scene, see them queens that stay king. See 144 screen.
Hallelujah.
Team one for the team, boy. Do you even know what that mean, boy?
We don't die, we multiply.
Hey, it's Fringe Gang, Blue Ribbon Army, yeah, that's my kinfolk. We popping easy pistols, we follow scriptures like tenfold. See a bundle of sticks hanging out of the window. The walls then fell in the water. To the Lakers, they endo, louder than a crescendo. Yeah, that's an innuendo. Metaphorically speaking, they tweaking off of the endo. Thinking this life a game, they geeking off of Nintendo. My Judah, we not the same. Let's separate from the simple. The wise inherit the kingdom. Praise his name to the king come. Get a prophet's reward with the sword, sevenfold and then some. We caught up in this war. My Judah, I know we've been one. Prophecies of the chosen, redemption of the stolen. My op, that's real Judah. Team one for the team, boy. Do you even know what that mean, boy? When them lions step on the scene, see them queens that stay king. See 144 screen.
Hallelujah.
Team one for the team, boy. Do you even know what that mean, boy?
We don't die, we multiply. We don't die, we multiply.
Not Edom, not Esau, not Edom, not Esau, not Edom, not Esau, Yashariah, Yashariah, not Edom, not Esau, not Edom, not Esau, not Edom, not
And YouTube, Eric the Mad Scientist, True Knowledge. You can catch me on Instagram, True Heart 30. You know, we're about to get into some history. First, I'm gonna introduce the Lions Den Queen, Karima. Introduce yourself. Tell the people where they can find you at.
Shalom, everybody. Shalom, the people that still watching. Yeah, that was T1 Lone Wolf. Very lyrical brother. You can catch him online, Lions Den channel. You can catch him on Bingo. You can catch him on Hebrew Hood Music page and Hebrew Hood Music group.
Okay. Yeah, I enjoy that music. Peace to y'all that made that music. And Neo, the two musicians that's on here, they be doing it for the Lions Den. Y'all support them brothers, man. Support the other group. What's the group name again?
Hebrew Hood Music, and we got this.
Okay, Hebrew Hoods. Y'all support them and Neo and them because they really be putting out some good music, some good knowledgeable music. You know what I mean? Because all this music that's out right there, you know, it ain't helping our people. So I'm glad there's people out here doing some good music. And check out
Fans French game, Blue Ribbon Army. That's connected to Hebrew hood music. So yeah.
And and check out her Hebrew music group. That's a good thing with all of them getting together and making good music. And anybody got that knowledgeable Hebrew music that's trying to link up with other ones, check her out. She'll hook you up. But we about to get to this presentation. Um, One of them is going to be the effects that slavery have on us today. I'm just going to be teaching how what happened through slavery, a little bit after slavery and before, and the effects that happened at that time that's actually messing with us today. That's have us in this condition today to where once we got out, what things they did to keep us like we are today, as what we would say mental slavery. And then my second one is going to be FBI uses black agents to take down Marcus Garvey. So I'm gonna show some agents, some black agents, how it started, why they did it. What I'm saying? This the data. That is the part one. My part two is gonna be that I'm working on still is going to be COINTELPRO and the Black Panthers, or how the black agents they use black agents to take down the Black Panthers. So we're gonna get to the first one, the effects that slavery have on us today. College. You can catch me on Bing, TikTok, Facebook, ERIK, Bad Scientist, True Knowledge, YouTube, Elevate Your Mind, Elevate Yah, Elevate YAH, Minds, okay, on YouTube. So let's get to the lesson. The effects that slavery have on us today. Mental slavery, self-hate, miseducation, generation slave cycle, and slave religion. Now, I'm going to get to this and I'm going to break it down. Not going to be long because I know a lot of people's attention span is low, but this is for the youth that's coming up because these teachings are fading away. We as older people might know, but the young people don't really know this. And I talk to the youth all the time. A lot of them don't know this. And I think they have to know this if we going to even put a dent in change. So let's get to it. Intro. First, what I would like to say, I'm not teaching this to hate Europeans, but teaching this to our people and showing why we in these conditions, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Also, I'm not teaching this for us to play victim, but to understand the systematic agenda and effects that was put on us so that we can try to reverse it by reaching the youth before the agenda does. Now, what I'm saying is I don't want you to teach this from hate or understand this from hate. I think that we should teach our children this to understand why we in this condition and how to change it. Because for you to fix a problem, you have to know the problem. What I mean by slavery, effects of slavery. Effects of slavery, the oppressors, tradition, and religion are parts of mental slavery. Not only is white supremacy and self-hate a part of mental slavery also, but so are traditions and religion. Tradition as far as holidays, which in fact are not our own people. The food we eat, holidays, our name, education, and religion. Many Catholicism and Christianity, mainly, are all from the oppressor, which comes from slavery. The master took away basically your identity and gave them theirs. So when the first generation slaves forget who they really are and start becoming the oppressor by following the master tradition and forced to accept the master name as their religion. And then we'll only teach the next generation, child, the oppressor ways, which goes down every generation after. I call it generational slavery. And this is all my teachings. I'm not going to Google nothing. I'm breaking it down from the research that I already have done, from the understanding of experience and me researching places like here, the slave trails all the way to Jamestown, all the way to the second biggest slave holding sale. Okay, so let's get to it. I'm gonna show what they did to us and how it affected us by taking our identity. Marcus Garvey been talking about it, but like I said, I want to reteach these things. We got to put this out to the youth. Forget if you know this, as I understand there's people that don't know this. Slave names. Now I'm gonna use a couple of slave narratives. These are slaves who were born, grew up. Some maybe was adults at the time slavery supposedly had ended in 1865. That's another presentation I'll do, that we was not freed in 1865. Former slave Richard Tauler, where we had to realize as a black people of the slavery, we lost our true name and was given last names after the master or by the master called slave names. Interview of former slave Richard Tauler, age. I think he was in his 80s. Was born of Master Tauler plantation down in Old Virginia. My papa name was George Tauler and my mama name was Lucy Tauler. We got our names from the owner. See, I don't even have to make no whole thing. This is him telling you where he got his name from. A lot of our names are slave names that came from the invader. They came from the kidnapper. They came from the traitor. Okay? So don't let people tell you any difference. Written by the mad scientist, mental slavery. Now this I'm going to break down how mental slavery controls the whole body and how they can physically enslave you. Well, let me read it first. Mental slavery. The body follows the mind. When a person has you mentally enslaved, then you are automatically physically enslaved. How can you physically unite a nation when you mentally confuse who your nation is? How can you physically free yourself when you mentally believe you're already free? You can be physically enslaved, but if you are mentally free, you will eventually physically free yourself. When I say physically, it does not mean that you have to be in chains and shackles. It means physically following the system of what your oppressor set to keep you enslaved. One way is hatred of each other, which makes us kill each other by violence, selling each other poison, drugs, or through abortion, but mentally believe it's okay. Mentally, we must break the system to be physically free. And what is he saying? What I'm saying is when they first got here off the boats, they knew who they were. They understand they ain't supposed to have been these slaves. So they kept escaping. They kept trying to fight. So what they had to do is they had to mentally enslave them and spiritually enslave them to a point where that's why they took the father out of the home and scared the mother. They beat the slave in front of them to scare them. And what happens is the woman in the house says, look, the father not around, I gotta survive. So now I'm gonna teach my son not to fight, to be obedient. So you won't be like them slaves that's getting killed and whipped. And once that generation teach that other generation, by the time we get to the third, fourth generation, many of them believe this is the condition they was already in. The same as we believe that we live in America and this is just society and this is how life goes, when it's not. Okay, let's go. Example of things we do today that came from slavery. Slave effects. A lot of things we do, so-called black people, that was introduced during slavery. Example, the slave worked all week. Then on Saturday, their master let them drink, dance, and party. After that, on Sunday, they went to church. After so-called freedom, we kept a cycle because that's all we knew. It is a reason you commit all these types of sins Saturday, then hit church Sunday. The slave masters made it that way. Now, what I'm trying to tell people, right? This is what happens. They let us work all day, We went partying Saturday. We went to church Sunday. And once everything got free, see, it became a whole society thing. Not saying that they didn't happen. But again, this is the things that they taught us how to do. That's why when we was at church, we always wonder, how does person do all this stuff, drinking, having sex, all this stuff, and then go to church and just ask Jesus to forgive them? This is a slavery thing that happened. This is a spiritual attack. This is the spiritual part that they enslaved you with. They had to do mentally, physically, and spiritually enslave us. Because that's the only way they can keep us. And they still couldn't keep us down as a slave. Racial self-hate. This is my definitions of it. All these my definitions and like I said, my research. My thoughts on the stuff I research. When you hate your skin and your features so much that you would pretend or wish to be another race and hate anyone that has your same color and similar features. Also, the condition of how you live plays a part also, but the origin is from a time before and after slavery when you was made fun of your hair, nose, lips, and skin to where you wish you could change them. When we got a chance, we did. Now, that's what I call racial self-hate, is when you hate yourself so much. Some of these stuff are what people teach. So I'm not saying that I'm just making it up, but I'm going off my understanding. I didn't go to a definition. So if it's not 100% right, it's not meant to be. It's because it's off in my mind. But what I'm saying is we hated ourselves, hated our features so much that you hated, a lot of people hated being black. Well, not black, but so-called black. We hated our features. We hated ourselves so much that we hated anything that looked like us. So we can look at another person that resembles us. Now, I ain't talking about look like us twins. I'm talking about resemble us as a race of people that we was taught, and we hate them. That's why you got black cops. That's why you got black COs. That's why you got black people that's in higher things that hate us because they wish they were the other people, but they understand that physically they can never really be them. You see what I'm saying? It's almost like hating your mother for birthing you who you are. Now, this is not disrespect little Kim. This is just show you. She literally changed her features, her color, her hair, everything. What is she trying to be? She's not trying to be a better looking black person. She's trying to be a whole nother race. Now, give me understanding. Black people don't just do this today. White people do it too. I can't really get the name is on my tongue what it's called, but it's black people that's actually trying to darken their skin, get woolly hair, all type of things. If you look at the girl in NCAA, who was the president, who betrayed a black woman, but actually was a white woman. These things are going on today, like I said, because after the slavery thing, everything just flip-flopped. You had black slaves, you had white people trying to be black people, you had black people trying to be white people, there's a lot of things that happen in society after the freedom, because we end up mixing up history of the so-called black woman hair. When they had enslaved the ones on the boats and enslaved the darker natives, they used the word wool to disgrace the hair. Plus, the European woman made them cover their hair from being jealous. The lighter slaves with straight hair were worth more, and after slavery, they were in higher classes in American society. In comes the straightening comb and perms, making the darker ones feel they had to have it to be accepted as the so-called high yellows. See, to keep the high yellow and the dark skin to stay divided, they treated one people better than the other. And by telling the high yellow they were more beautiful because they resembled the European, made the darker feel the only way to be beautiful is to make themselves look as European as they could. Me, I don't speak on perms and weaves to disrespect our women. I speak on it to help our women love themselves naturally. So yeah, I used to get on this a lot I kind of fell off from it because I know it's not gonna never stop it. But I like speaking on it just to get, because you might talk to somebody and they listen. So I'm one of the people now. I could talk to 100 people who want to listen. I'm satisfied. You know what I'm saying? But this is the conditions that we had, that the European actually was jealous during slavery because the slave master was so attracted to the slave that they made them cover their hair, cover themselves up, but it wasn't working. So when they got later on, especially like after slavery, they start telling you how big your nose is, how big your lip is, how big your butt is, how dark your skin is. You wish you were me. You wish you looked like me. To a point where we started believing it. And we was taught in school, everything white's good, everything black is bad. That's how we was taught. I'm going to get into that though. But this is how this stuff started. The greatest effects of self-hate, self-oppression. Now, most of our communities are oppressed by our own people. We are the number one murders of ourselves through rap music, gangs, and drugs. We are oppressing ourselves, and the reason it would be almost impossible to stop it because our oppressor is our own family and children. The answer is to re-educate the youth before the effects reach them and reverse it so they don't want to harm their own people anymore. The cure for hate is love. Malcolm X said the slave master no longer has to whip, shoot, lynch, rape, poison, and brainwash you. He has taught you to do it yourself. So we are being oppressed by our own people right now. That's why the KKK had a letter, I wish I would have showed it, that was thanking the gangs for terrorizing the hood, for killing their own people. Because they ain't got to do it no more. We're doing their job. So self-hate becomes hate of yourself, becomes hate of people who look like you, to where you want to become self-oppression. So get an understanding of that. These people had us for 400-500 years, more. You know what I mean? More. Because the slaves, all these slave trades and all that stuff, this stuff's been going on. But as far as America, I'm going to say in North America, slavery really didn't get deep like that until the 1700s. So maybe 300 years they had us and experimented. Understood what happened, they took the father away. They understood what happened, they took the children away. They understood what happened, what takes the mother away. They understood what happened if we give these people this drink. They understood what happened to give these people this drink. They been knew this, okay? Now let's go. They created hate between each other in slavery. And this is what I'm saying. So I don't just be saying it, I try to prove it. Another former slave. See, hate towards each other started during slavery. Making a black slave beat the other slave, which created hate between each other. This is why they know how to keep us divided through practicing slavery. Example, interview of former slave Will Adams, born 1857. Young Master Tom, my special master. My pa was a leader on the farm. There was no overseer. When my pa whooped a nigga, he needed to go to the master Dave. But pa said, go your way, free man. Don't whip you for nothing. Okay? So, don't get me wrong. It was some ones that didn't want to do it and stuff. They was called overseas. They had black overseas. But it was some that hated you just as much, like today. They will whip you. And guess what? When your own people is whipping you, you have a disdain for them more than you even have for the Europeans whipping you. Because it's looking like it's a person that looks like you again. That looks like you, but resembles you. That's beating your ass. You see what I'm saying? That's beating your tail. So we must understand that even black people were overseers. Now, that's why I talk about the plantations, because all plantations were not the same. Even the Europeans all did not want to have slaves. It was a money thing. So Europeans caught slaves because they would be broke. They didn't get rid of them. But a lot of slaves were treated different. You had some slaves that would tell you they actually thought they were free because they looked at the other plantations and see what happened to them, even though none of them was free. But some of them were treated better. Doesn't mean it was right. It's just history and it's just truth. White supremacy, my definition. White supremacy is a system created by the slave master to create supremacy of one people over another through religion, miseducation, and images. First, they had to get us to accept the black and white racial terms. Second, they taught us the things that were white is good and pure and the things black are evil. Lastly, they had to give you a God that looks like them and a religion that taught you to obey them. If you want to ever be in a better condition after you die, that you living on earth, even though them same people put you in that condition. So these are the three definitions that I believe that when I say white supremacy, it's teaching us that they're superior, teaching us to obey, and teaching us that if we obey, we'll go to a better place than we are today on earth, because the condition the hell they created for us on earth is a place after that's going to be better if we obey them, that's giving us the hell. I know it don't make sense, but that's what they did. Black supremacy is created by white supremacy. Black supremacy is just a counterattack against white supremacy, and black supremacy is just as bad. Firstly, because black supremacy does the same in history and religion, creating a false narrative that makes black people seem superior. Secondly, black supremacy will make you turn your back to a black person while watching a white person just for you to be stabbed in the back. Lastly, is a fake ego booster that doesn't help our people get out of these conditions but create an imaginary power structure. Now, I like people like the Black Panthers, not because they was going around saying black power, power to the people. They was toting guns trying to fight the corrupt police, not just because of that. Because they was making organizations, after school programs, teaching the law. They were actually doing things that actually could help change the condition in the hood, not give you a force of hope, pride. Okay? This is what Martin Luther King said. Black supremacy is as dangerous as white supremacy. And God is not interested merely in the freedom of black men and brown men and yellow men. God is interested in the freedom of whole human race and the creation of a society where all men will be together as brothers and all men will respect the dignity and the worth of the human person. Fast forward a little bit. I don't know. Personality. Okay, I think it went mute for a second. You know, some people believe that there's only one type of race that's going to be saved. There's going to be this and this and that. You know, that's on them. But, you know, I don't personally believe that. I believe anybody that puts their faith in the Most High will be saved. That's me. Miseducation. My definition, being taught in a way that doesn't benefit a certain people. Teaching the history of people, not teaching the history of other so-called races and class. Teaching false history to deliberately hide the accomplishments of what the other so-called races did in this country. So they teach the history that you only know a certain people's history. They don't teach your history. And they deliberately hide the accomplishments you did so you wouldn't think that you have anything to do with this country being great. And then it makes a lot of people say, let's leave here. Let's go here. Let's leave here. America, they created this America for us to be this and this and this and that. Yes, they created the system that's in America. We created America. Let's go. They were scared to let us pray because they knew who we were. 1937 interview of former slave Katie Darling. When a slave dies, master makes the coffin himself and send a couple niggas to bury the body and say, don't be long. And no singing or praying aloud. Just put them in the ground and cover them up and hurry up on back. Well, now, why would they want us to pray? Because people got to understand we are the children of the Most High. We are the representation of God on earth. We are the people. If we were in power, the whole world would change. And that's why they keep us like this. That's why the wickedness controls the world and the whole world is wicked. And they understand that if we prayed, that the Most High would listen to us. They wouldn't let us read. And most us colored folks was the great desire to read and write. We took advantage of every opportunity to educate ourselves. Most of the plantation owners were very harsh. If you were caught trying to learn and write, and if a white person was caught teaching us, they faced a fine and jail time. We were never allowed to go out of town, not until I ran away that I knew that they sold nothing but slaves, tobacco and whiskey. How ignorant was the greatest hold the South had on us. We knew we could run away, but what then? So a lot of slaves, even Harriet Tubman will tell you, when she tried to free them, it ain't that they didn't know they was slaves. It was more like, well, what I'm supposed to do? My mother has to feed me. My mother clothes me. When they so-called freed it, you know, most slaves went back to their slave master and still worked on that plantation. Their slave master had their whole generation of families from the time they brought us over here or invaded us. Do you know that? So this is the understanding. They didn't want us to read, and they made it seem like to this day well, not to this day, but think about it. If you're from another place and you can't read this English, I can deliberately make you think that I'm smarter than you, that you is not smart as me because you can't read a language that's not meant for you. Does that make you not smart? No, because you actually can read a language that's in a book that's in your language. See, it's the trickery. Let's go. Bonus, did you know? Black conquistador Pedro Alonso Nino, Black conquistador and trader, navigator of explorer, traveled with Christopher Columbus' first expedition to the New World in 1492. Known as El Negro, the Black, pilot of the Santa Maria with Columbus. When they invaded Trinidad in South America, piloting one of the 17 ships which brought the first Africans freemen to Hispaniola, financed his own voyage, discovering pearls and gold, places Columbus did not live to the agreement he had with the king to turn over 20% of the treasure known as the Royal Fifth, was arrested and died in prison. So all these explorers and all this stuff was a power move. It wasn't really a racial thing. A racial thing was created to keep certain agendas. It was all about money. Black people benefited off it. Africans benefited. Arabs benefited. Native Americans benefited. It was different tribes of people who benefited off this thing, not just one people. Okay. Slave patrol police today. What is a slave patroller? A patroller was men who was hired by the slave master to patrol around the plantations, making sure the slaves had a pass to where they was going. If not, the slave was beaten and sent back to the plantation. The pass is now called the ID, and in the hood growing or not, it was a type of curfew that allowed the police to harass you. Now, if anybody was in the hood in the 90s, I don't know where y'all was from or where we from, you could be in an apartment complex, but if you after that motherfucker, after 11,
They're gonna harass you. They're gonna try to pat you down illegally. They try to do a lot of things. They're gonna ask you if you're from there. Sometimes they try to make you go in the house. They can ask you for your ID. On the plantations, when you had a woman, say you had a woman on another plantation, a wife, you wanted to go see her. Your master gave you a card. It was a pass. They had the time that you left and the time you're supposed to be back. If you was caught by the patroller past that time, they can beat you and send you back to your master where he beat you. So the patroller is, after slavery became more of the police of society. That's why I said most of the stuff they did to us becomes a society thing now. They do it to everybody. But the patroller was the police, and the slave catchers are what you call bounty hunters today. You know what I'm saying? So we got to understand that too. That's why I said the effects of slavery is not only through generational cycle, it's actually from experimenting us at one time and understanding if we do this, this will happen the next time. So anytime we get in power, they understand how to shut us down because they've been doing it from the beginning of time of being here as slaves. Okay, this is my outro. When Moses came down with the laws, it was to set us apart from the Egyptian culture, same as we have today, because slavery is not just physical. When your people are enslaved for generations and inherit the master culture, you start to think the culture is yours. If them laws and commands were never established by Moses from Yah, then it would have just been another form of Egyptian idol worship. And that's what I was trying to tell people. The story is about of people leaving another people, establishing their own nation. But they had to Egyptianize themselves. I don't know if I made that word or not, but the Egyptianize themselves, meaning he made certain laws that you would get out of the Egyptian mind state. That's why when Moses first got there, what did they do? Made a golden calf. They made idols. They did all this stuff because where they were at, that's what they were doing, idols. They were cutting their hair. They was doing all type of stuff. So they supposed to have been set apart from all this nation that they came out of. Not just all nations, but literally the nation they came out of at that time. Just like when you leave America today, if you go over another country that's not colonized, you're going to have to de-Americanize yourself. You're going to have to learn how to live with electricity some places, without TV, without cell phones, or learn how to grow your own food. If you don't know how to do this, you're not going to survive as a people. All right? This is ERIK, the Man of Science of True Knowledge. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Peace out.
Yeah, y'all don't go nowhere. Y'all stay right there. Don't go nowhere. It ain't over yet. I got one more video. It's the FBI, how the FBI used the black agents to take down Marcus Garvey. And the reason I'm showing this today is because we forget what be happening to us. You know, and every year trends come and they get all this stuff to distract us, and we forget what our whole goal was. You know what I'm saying? And that's since we've been here or got invaded here, was always to get free from this system and mass state of slavery. So I'm showing you how they tricking and they keep doing it. We keep falling for it. They keep giving us leaders after they told us we ain't gonna have no more black leaders. And we keep following these people and we keep getting disappointed because when they fail. So hope y'all enjoy this next video. My bad, I didn't mean to put that something right there, but it's FBI investigation of Marcus Garvey and black agents who helped take him down. That's the misspelled thing. I should have watched it, but my bad. FBI agents of Marcus Garvey and black agents who helped take him down. That's what it's saying. It's gonna be talking about how they use our own people to take us down. It's crazy because I didn't even know it was this deep. You know, I heard about it, but it's real deep. So enjoy.
True Knowledge. DA Mad Scientist True Knowledge. Eric the Mad Scientist True Knowledge. Catch me on Facebook, TikTok, Bing, YouTube. All under Eric the Mad Scientist True Knowledge. Let's get to this uh, presentation. FBI investigation of Marcus Garvey and black agents who helped take him down. Now, this is the first part. The second part is going to be about COINTELPRO and Huey Newton. I'm going to break it down to two because I want to get in detail of this. Okay? Let's get to see who is Marcus Garvey. Marcus Mosiah Garvey, Sr., ONH, was a Jamaican political activist, publisher, journalist, entrepreneur, and orator. He was the founder of the first President General of Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League, through which he declared himself provisional president of Africa. Now, anybody and people that really know, about Garvey, he is one of the first, if not most influential black nationalists, which is like Nation of Islam, groups like that. I guess you would say like the more, well, they not black, they wouldn't say black, but black nationalists. So let's get to it. People like Umar Johnson, Pan-Africanists, black nationalists. All right. This is the first black agent. I just wanted to put it in here so you can get the origin of it. James Jones was an African-American policeman, World War I veteran, and is best known for having been the first African-American FBI agent. Jones served for many years in D.C. police officer prior to joining the African-American Army regiment known as Buffalo Soldiers. And while stationed in Europe following the war, he was a senior instructor of his division School of Specialists, teaching soldiers how to handle high-power explosives and the mechanics of bombs and grenades. So this is considered the first black FBI agent. And let me see, does it have it there? I don't know how far this is, but it's got to be like the early 1900s, the early 1900s, maybe the late 18. I don't really know, right? Now, this is the FBI. Now, this is what the reason they started investigating on them, and they tried to get him under false charges. Let's get to this. Hoover sends agents on Garvey. In October 1919, a young J. Edgar Hoover, director of Bureau of Investigations General Intelligence Division, targeted black Marcus Garvey for investigation and harassment because of the alleged association with radical movements that were agitating the Negro movement. Hoover admitted Garvey had violated no federal laws, but the Bureau, the precursor organization to the FBI, infiltrated Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association with informant, provocators, and undercover agents who searched for years for any charge that could justify his deportation. Provocators, my bad. With informant provocators and undercover agents who searched for years for any charge that could justify his deportation. So they sent black agents to infiltrate the groups to try to find charges or even create charges. Don't forget that too. All right. The Justice Department ultimately won a conviction against Garvey on a dubious mail fraud charge in 1923. Meanwhile, white vigilantes, police, and soldiers targeted black communities with violence during this period, which included the Red Summer of 1919, the Tulsa Massacre in 1921, and the scores of lynching did not receive the same focused attention for Hoover's agents. They were so worried about him, they wasn't even researching or investigating the other things that was going on, destroying of white groups, destroying black communities, wealthy communities. All right, let's go to some of the agents that was investigating on Marcus Garvey. These are some of the black agents. His name was James Amos, and he served the Bureau as a special agent for 32 years over some of the most turbulent history of the United States. The Louis Lepke Buckhalter Gang, a notorious band of professional hitmen known as Murder Inc. So he wanted people to help investigate on Murder Inc. So they just wasn't just doing black group; they was doing other groups too. You see what I'm saying? The Nazi spy ring. Because of his knowledge of New York, Amos was asked to shadow the Quincy and locate his home. At the trial, Amos refuted the spy's claim of being a close personal friend of the late President Roosevelt. Marcus Garvey and his Black Star steamship company, which defrauded African Americans by falsely promising paid passage to Africa, the notorious tri-state gang which brutally murdered a postal truck driver, a police officer, and others. And you see they try to sneak in here and act like that Marcus Garvey was defrauding when they just admitted that he did not have to defraud, that these are chump charges they put on Marcus Garvey to get rid of him. So they understand that that's how they play them games. Earl F. Titus, after working as a Indianapolis police officer, joined the Bureau of January 9th, 1922. His assignments included undercover work in the investigation of Marcus Garvey, a black nationalist who was convicted of mail fraud in 1923. Titus retired in June 1924 at the age of 56. So after he got rid of Marcus Garvey, the man basically retired 2 years later. It's one of their biggest cases they did. They were so happy this man was so happy he retired, man. This is crazy. Look at these agents. So these agents, this agent infiltrating our groups, they ain't starting in the 50s and 60s. It's starting in the 1920s and maybe beyond. This is what they telling us. Arthur Brent became a special agent on August 1st, 1923, after serving 2 years as a special employee. In the Department of Justice. Brent was assigned to the Washington field office where he worked on the Garvey case and other investigations. He left the Bureau in 1924. And this is crazy. So these people are leaving right after they got rid of Garvey. Or did they leave? Did they change their name? Or did they go undercover again? See, y'all got to watch this. Emmett J. Scott was one of them, an agent at the Bureau. Scott posed as a reporter who attended Garvey's UNIA meeting and conventions, who interviewed Garvey. A native of Houston, Texas, Emmett J. Scott garnered a reputation as Booker T's chief aide. He was also the highest-ranking African-American in Woodrow Wilson's administration. So these agents actually be doing a lot of things, and they be high-ranking, and they actually create other black groups. They create things that you would think that, how is this man doing this for the black community, but he's an agent? This is how deep they get into it. It's called undercover. Black leaders created Garvey Must Go campaign. Now, these are the black leaders who disagree with Marcus Garvey. But by 1920, A. Philip Randolph and other black leaders, some of whom had supported Garvey, also has arrived in the after his arrival in the United States, came to believe that Garvey program for black advancement was unsound and that Garvey himself was a charlatan. Black opposition to Garvey coalesced into what came to be known as the Garvey Must Go campaign. Supporters of the campaign, known collectively as the Friends of Negro Freedom, intended to unmask Garvey as a fraud before his black supporters. They also appealed to the federal government to step up investigations of irregularities in the Black Star Line and to look into alleged acts of violence on the part of Garvey's inner circle. So these people actually went to the FBI and told them to investigate on Garvey, which actually claimed they put false charges on him. Okay? So when you're hearing these people talking about they going to the FBI, I'm talking about the modern time right now, you're talking about going here and going there and just understand what they're doing. Understand that these people are agents. And that's why I say that. W.E.B. Du Bois versus Garvey. Although Garvey and Du Bois were both Pan-Africanists, there was little love lost between them. Their difference was mainly ideology. Garvey concentrated on the needs of the everyday black person, where Du Bois dealt and worked in more elite circles. But their mutual disparagement was also tainted by colorism. Du Bois once described Garvey as a little fat black man, ugly, but with intelligent eyes and a big head. Garvey dismissed Du Bois as a little Dutch, a little French, a little Negro, a mulatto, a monstrosity. Now, this is how they've been. Look how long this been going on. When a black person does something, another black person comes up and they argue, and it becomes two black people going against each other. Du Bois and Garvey, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. It just goes on and on and on and on. Khalid, Farrakhan, it just goes on and on. Sometimes they with each other, they break up, and it's always they was friends first, and something broke them up. And that's what I try to say. When it comes to things like this, you got to understand that the FBI had a hand in these things at this time. Du Bois will always be synonymous with barrier breaking, civil rights, and black intelligent achievement. Today, one of the biggest centers of black studies is based in his alma mater, Harvard, and named for him. But Garvey left a living legacy too. It's not a stretch to say that his philosophies influenced the Do for Self teaching of Nation of Islam and the Black is Beautiful movement of the late 1960s. So even though these two people had a disagreement, they still influenced later on other black leaders. So just imagine they was together and stop arguing and get together and put both of their things together. Imagine how powerful they could have been. This is Garvey. Did Garvey prophesize about King Selassie? Look to Africa when a black king shall be crowned, for the day of deliverance is near. The Jamaican Pan-Africans rallied for Rastafarians. The reference to Africa was reinterpreted to mean Ethiopia, and the link to a black king, the coronation of Selassie in 1930, fulfilling Garvey's prophecy. So this is just something they sent to Mike that they believe that happened at the time, that he prophesied of King Selassie. Problem Garvey had with King Selassie. Before Garvey died, he had witnessed Selassie rule for at least a decade and wasn't impressed. He condemned him as a great coward for fleeing Mussolini's troops in 1935 when Italy invaded Ethiopia. He also criticized Selassie's practice of slavery, which was not abolished in Ethiopia until 1942. In Garvey's own words, it is a preferable for the Abyssinian Negroes and the Negroes of the world to work for the restoration of freedom of the country without assistance of Selassie, because at best he is but a slave master. So this is what Marcus Garvey had a problem with him for. I always knew they didn't have a problem, but I just didn't know why. So now I see why. All right. And this is his death. In 1935, Garvey returned to London, where he lived and worked until his death at age 52. Marcus Garvey died on June 10th, 1940, from complications brought on by two strokes due to World War II travel restrictions. He was originally buried in St. Mary's Roman Catholic Cemetery in Kensal Green, London. But on November 13, 1964, his body was exhumed and buried beneath the Marcus Garvey Memorial and National Heroes Park in Kingston, Jamaica. So this is my part two. This is my part one, though, for right now. Marcus Garvey, you know, how the FBI infiltrated his UNAI, and how he used black agents to infiltrate to create false charges on him. So he went to prison, I think, for 5 years, and then he was transferred overseas. So this is something. The next thing is going to be the COINTELPRO and the Black Panther Party, and how they infiltrated them, and how it was illegal. How COINTELPRO was a legal action against our people. All right, peace out.
Yeah, peace. You got 18 more minutes, Kareem.
This is why you see right here this Mexican.
Yeah.
Okay, I sent you one more video. This is the Dahomey tribe. I have been wanting to break this down because I ain't seen nobody break it down like this. So the video I sent you is called the Dahomey tribe. I put this out on my YouTube. Eric the Mad Scientist, y'all check that out too. But I put it out around that time of the movie because I wanted to get, because I seen people talking about it, but nobody really wanted to show the info. So I'm gonna show the info of why they say they're slave traders, what they did with the kings, the rituals. Put certain stuff together for you to get a bigger understanding. I like bringing it to you like a history, so you can go back and you can show your kid, you can do anything, and it's gonna have the information in it. And where to go to. So yeah, I hope y'all enjoy this. This is the Dahomey tribe. The one that movie based off, I think it was The First Queen, something like that. I can't remember what the movie was called, but y'all know the African movie that came out just now. Everybody was speaking on it.
That were already here. And unfortunately, most people still believe that all blacks came from the ships from Africa. So let's talk about some of those statistics. According to PBS.org, only 12.5 million Africans were kidnapped from Africa, but only 10.7 million actually survived. And of that 10.7 million, 388,000 came to North America. And the rest were distributed to South America and the Caribbean. But the first people that were here were the American Aborigines. According to Indigenous and Americans.com, the American Aborigines owned 1 million square miles worth of land in the Louisiana Territory, southeastern region of Florida, and the colony of California. In many areas of America, black nations existed way before Christopher Columbus even arrived. Those lands were rightfully the American Aborigines before they were stolen and given to the white settler. The American Aborigines that were stripped from their land were dumped in Oklahoma. And one of the most historic and sad tragedies was called the Trail of Tears. 40 to 90 Indians were placed there. The point is that the American Aborigines were here, and they were here first.
Yeah, that was a TikTok from I hope her name was on the video because I don't like having people video and then don't know his name, but she has some good info on that digital side. But the video I just sent, I ain't even send that. I don't even know how that happened, but Make sure I sent it. Okay. All right, it's based off of that movie, but I'm showing the real
It's on
history of it.
Facebook, Bing,
And enjoy the video.
TikTok, and Elevate Y'all YAH Man on YouTube. Elevate Y'all Minds on YouTube. Everybody get to this presentation. I'm just gonna break down some of the things of who they are, the Dahomey Kingdom, who they are today. You know, some famous people or known people of the kingdom, the most known, and break down a little bit of religion, the dark side of it, because this movie that's out called The Woman King, you know, many saying is not portraying who these people really were or breaking it down in real detail. But I don't know why people are surprised that Hollywood is not telling the whole story. I mean, you know, that's on them though. But let's go to this. The Dahomey Kingdom, Smithsonian Magazine, at its height in 1840s, the West African Kingdom of Dahomey boasted an army so fierce that its enemies spoke of its bravery. This 6,000 strong force, known as the Agoji, raided villages under cover of darkness, took captives and slashed off resistors' heads to return to their king as trophies of war. Through these actions, the Joji established the Homies permanence over neighboring kingdoms and became known as European visitors as Amazons due to their similarities to warrior women of Greek myth. Now, these the people right here. Now, I noticed a lot of things go by Greek myth, but that's just another story. Like I told people, Greek myth controls a lot of our societies today, even overseas into other countries. But these are the people right here, and this is why they was called Amazons, based off of Greek myth, okay? The three boys, according to tradition, are these supposed to be the beginning of how, I guess you would say, or it's a tradition of how it started. Some people say it's really, people really don't know the origin, so a lot of it is, I guess you would say, stories that was passed down. So according to tradition, at the beginning of the 17th century, three brothers vied for the kingdom of Alada, which, like neighboring Wada, had grown rich on the slave trade. When one of the brothers won control of Alada, the other two fled. One went southeast and founded Porto Nova on the coast east of Wada. The other, through Ackland, went north to found the kingdom of Dahomey, core of the future Dahomey. They all paid tribute to the powerful Yoruba kingdom of Oyo to the east. So this is supposedly how it started off with three brothers, and they separated and went three different places, and one of them ended up being one of the creators of the Dahomey kingdom. Okay, let's get to the slave trade part. Dahomey and the slave trading. Dahomey was organized for war, not only to expand its boundaries, but also to take captives as slaves. Slaves were either sold to the Europeans in exchange for weapons or kept to work for the royal plantations that supplied food for the army and court. From approximately 1680, a regular census of population was taken as a basis for military conscription. Female soldiers, called Amazons by the Europeans, served as royal bodyguards when not in combat. So that's telling you that they went and took captives, sold it to the Europeans. You know, this was a lot of stuff they was doing. This is how a lot of these kingdoms thrived. And this is the part they don't want to tell you about history, you know, but that's another story. I ain't get too deep into that. I'm just trying to break down who these people is so, you know, we can have a basis of them. Human sacrifice. Now, we're going to break down the, you know, some people said this was part of their, I guess they're like a religion or tradition or ritual, you know. So, that's, like I said, I'm just researching, bringing stuff up. Don't come to me saying it's not true and that's not true. I'm just starting a conversation off to show the different sides of these people. Yeah, you know, we understand sacrifice been here for the beginning of time, but Monetier published a letter from Wildwood Supplies details respecting the festival of human sacrifices recently held at Dahomey, the capital of Dahomey, before the king and in precincts of all his courts and great dignitaries of the state. The latter says the king having announced the people that in a short time to honor the names of his ancestor and King Gizi, his father, 40 prisoners belonging to the rebel tribe of the Arkansas would be immolated on the marketplace at Abner with the usual ceremony. 3 days afterwards, he decided that his barbarous deed shall be accomplished 1 hour before sunrise. Many Europeans who were in the town had an audience of the monarch and implored him to give up the horrible sacrifice. The king declared that he could not suppress the national festival, but that in consideration for the foreigners, he consented to reduce the number of the victims to 12. On the eve of the sacrifice, he went to the great shed under which the 40 prisoners were secured to post. He gave an order that 28 should be released. Now, this was a ritual that they did for the king, sacrificing. So when they say, and then they had the European watch, and by the Europeans trying to tell him, please don't do this, he said, no, I'm not going to kill 40 of them, I'm going to kill 12 of them, basically, or sacrifice. Same thing to me, but now let's go to the next. 19, now this is one that's astonishing right here. People want to always had this stuff. And when I say people, I mean our people who's trying to teach this black supremacy thing. But that's another story again. 1902, Dahomey changed name to Benin. In 1902, Dahomey was declared a French colony in the movement of Africa decolonization. Following World War II, Dahomey became an autonomous republic, gaining full independence in 1960. The Republic of Dahomey changed its name to Benin in 1975. So these was the people that I showed one day apologizing for the slavery, and never knew that these were the same people. And I showed the Benin tribe, and I used to tell people the Benin tribe had part of slavery. Never knew that this was the same people that they called the Amazon and the Dahomey Nation. Crazy. How much did the Dahomey contribute in the slave trade? The Dahomey conquered the kingdom of Huda, who lived along the coast and took control of the port city of Oada, inaugurating its active participation in the Atlantic slave trade. Historians established that nearly 1 million enslaved Africans were put on the ships to the Americas in Oada between 1659 and 1863. The port was the second largest supplier of African captives to the trade, behind only Luanda in today's Angola. So yeah, when I went to the slave trades in Virginia, they spoke on a lot of people did come from Angola. I do remember that. Behenzing, the last king of Dahomey, with his family in 1894, although his predecessor had allowed France to claim the city of Cotonou as a protectorate. Benhazine was strongly opposed to colonization and launched an ill-fated last push to end European interference. So this is one of the last kings, which is not one of the last kings. I'm going to show you the last king, but I guess it's one of the last kings that started, that they felt like they was fighting against the colonization. Queen Hangby. Not much is known about how the Dahomey warriors came to be. However, legend states that they were descendants of Queen Tassi Hangby, who ruled the Dahomey kingdom in the early 18th century after the sudden death of her twin brother. According to historians, Benavenu, the first Amazon, was Hangby. Her father was King Huagbi Badja, founder of the Dahomey kingdom, and her twin brother was King Akaba. In 1708, after the death of her brother Akaba, following long illness, Hangby was silently installed as the head of the military, and after coming back from her military campaign, she was publicly proclaimed Queen of Dahomey. Now, I always see how they don't know too much about her, but they always try to tell a story about a person. But this is supposed to be the queen, and she's supposed to be one of the first, I guess, the so-called Amazon Dahomey woman warrior. They don't know too much about her. I just put her out there because I was seeing her a lot. All right, this is said to be the last king. The current king of Dahomey. I ain't even gonna say the name. I'm just gonna say Gilly is seen during a ceremony where artifacts, some considered sacred in Benin, arrived to the presidential palace in Cotonou on November 10th, 2021, with drums, dancing, and tears. Benin on November 10th, 2021, welcomed back nearly 30 royal treasuries looted from the West African state during French colonial rule more than 130 years ago. The artifacts, some considered sacred in Benin, arrived in the economic capital, Cotonou, by plane before being transported in 3 trucks, escorted by horses to the presidential palace. The return of the artifacts comes as calls Mountain Africa for Western countries to hand back colonial spoils from their museums. Now, this man was said to die, I think, last year. And from my reading, it is not a king set in place yet. And they haven't set any rituals for a new king. But this is the last king that died last year, or ruler, whatever, which one you want to call him. I think they say he was 90 years old, if I ain't mistaken. One of the last bloodlines. And that's it. Hope you enjoy. Oh, yeah, let me get to one article, because I want to read this article. Let me see if I can get to it. Okay, this is the article for the sacrifice. This is a newspaper. The religion of the Dahomey is a form of nature worship. They believe in one great supreme being who they consider too far removed from earth to concern himself in the least about human affairs, but who delegates his power to a host of inferior deities who have their homes for the fields, the forests, the springs, who preside over the crops and the rain, the crops and the rain and the sunshine. To these sacrifices are annually made with great pomp and ceremony. Things are precious as the worshippers procure. Nothing is more precious than human life, and a king who rules the Dahomey like a demigod, being regarded as such by his people, make every year such sacrifices as it deems becoming to the dignity of the monarch, who terms himself the brother of the stars. These annual sacrifices are called the customs, and every year from 60 to 100 victims are put to death, partly in honor of the gods and partly to carry news to the dead. The Homies believe in the immortality of the soul, and also that every soul enters the other world precisely the same condition in which it leaves. This, that a king is forever a king, that a slave can never hope for freedom. Every year when the season for the customs approaches in certain number, I can't read the rest, but that's the part I wanted to read in the sacrifice. But I hope you enjoy. You know, just putting some information out there. Hope this helps. And I don't know if I'll tell people to watch the movie or not, because I ain't really watched it yet. But from what I'm hearing, it's not really factual. But like I said, it's Hollywood. What do you expect? Peace out. Yeah, that's my videos. Hope y'all enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? I did 3 videos. It's still only 8 hour, 18 minutes. That's I gotta make my videos a little longer. But the next time, I'm trying to do a show. Y'all come on the last day. I'm trying to do the Who is Lucifer and Isaiah. Break it down it biblically and with the why is he calling himself that? You just break it down some verses for you too. And I want to do the near death experience. That's going to be doctors that interview the hundreds of people or thousands of people and ask them what they see during what is called a near death experience, meaning your heart goes but your brain's still active. And I'm going to show, does that actually mean anything when people saying they see anything? Because some scientists are saying it's the brain, and the brain is not all the way dead. And I'm going to show a scientist that doesn't agree with that and saying that our conscious actually goes beyond our brain. So, whenever it's time for y'all want to watch, make another show, I got that for y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed these videos.
Yep, sure did.
And thank you again. Y'all always gotta give Creamer her flowers, man.
because she still be doing her thing, and I don't know how she do it, but because some people be on here, I know how irritating they get, but y'all be keeping it down. Y'all getting out, more people come to watch y'all. I see people coming overseas watch you. I be watching, you know what I'm saying? I just don't always comment because sometimes it's like, listen, I ride, and this what people got to realize when y'all be on the last day, y'all need to come out here, teach your thing, show your stuff, because people like me, when I'm watching this, I'm sitting in the car, or I'm doing something, I got the headphones in. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to listen. I'm trying to hear what other people got to say. I'm not no person that act like I just know everything. I'm trying to learn. I want to hear what this person say, that person say. So y'all, when y'all get on these panels, you know, some of y'all just gotta, put your egos away and stop acting like a fool, man, and teach, because that's what it's about. It's about our people learning, man, and waking up. All right, peace out.
Peace, thank you.